Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair ni hao chudashumme washmale. Ohio Gonzaimas, Guten Morgen, Hola, Bonjour, Privyet, Kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba, buna mucho, gracias, swabia, bhalli kare aaya. Hosh galde nanayo sayo, khuya mora, chi batto, chi hal jot, kali mera khairutan. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajra Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your day with us. But first things first, hello Hajra, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam, jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for introducing me, and we will start our program with a very sad news and unfortunate passing away of Prince Aga Khan. Prince Rahim Aga Khan becomes rather 50th spiritual leader of the Ismaili community because his father passed away. Prince Rahim Ul Hussaini Aga Khan has been named the 50th hereditary Imam of the Ismaili Muslim community following the passing away of Maulana Shah Karim Aga Khan IV. The official announcement was made in Lisbon, where the late Imam's will has been read in the presence of his family and senior community leaders. In accordance with the centuries-old tradition, the formal designation of a successor, rather the Imam, the mantle of the leadership, has now passed to Maulana Shah Rahim Aga Khan V. The announcement stated that the Prince Rahim Aga Khan now inherits both spiritual and the institutional leadership of Ismaili community. Prince Rahim Aga Khan was conferred with nation's highest civilian awards, Nishan-e-Pakistan, by President Asif Ali Zardari during his visit to Pakistan last year. And we hope and pray that this leadership, this imamate, brings the best towards his community, not just his community, towards the entire
Ameen. And you know where we are actually talking about best, ladies and gentlemen, there's a polio campaign drive, taking place in Balochistan, which certainly will serve the purpose of best, for 26 lakh children, 2.6 million children over there. The governor of Balochistan actually was speaking on this occasion of how 11,000 polio workers will be making sure that the dosages of polio are being administered all over Balochistan or the children of Balochistan. We have a message to share on behalf of the governor of Balochistan, Sheikh Jafar Khan Mandukhail. Please, let's go. Let's take a good listen.
Today we have government of Balochistan is going to make it a success, and we have a 5 days campaign for some 11,000 workers are taking part in this polio campaign. I appreciate their efforts also, working in these hard conditions, and our target is to vaccinate around 26 lakhs children in this campaign. My message to the parents is that they shall vaccinate their children. It's very necessary for them because as a government we are spending a lot of money on it and lot of efforts on it. And personally will monitor all these activities of this polio campaign in all the districts, in all the divisions and every area. And our target will be to vaccinate all the children in Balochistan, inshallah. A strict security measure will be taken to give them security and prevent them, giving the message to the administration also to take appropriate action to give them the security and help them in all these activities of polio campaign. It's very necessary for the childs to vaccinate them, and it's our prime duty as a government also. And I am giving the message to the parents of the children also to vaccinate their children, because once they paralyze, then nothing can be done yet.
Thank you so much. It was a wonderful message, and I would like to request, all of those parents in Balochistan to please make sure that when the polio vaccine workers show up at your door, please make sure that you get your children vaccinated. And I believe that, this message certainly needs a lot of importance in Urdu too. So I'm going to say it in Urdu. तो जितने भी वालिदैन हैं बलूचिस्तान में इस वक्त पोलियो कैंपेन चल रही है, प्लीज़ कोशिश कीजिए कि अपने बच्चों को पोलियो के वैक्सीन के कतरे ज़रूर पिलाएं और उनके फ्यूचर को जो है वो अच्छा बनाएं. Thank you so much for that. But where we are speaking about future, I think Pakistan has got a great future in cricket, and cricket coming to Pakistan.
Inshallah.
Because imagine that the New Zealand cricket team has arrived in Lahore for the upcoming Tri-Nation Series, which is set to begin in February 8th. The series will feature Pakistan, New Zealand and South Africa with the first match between Pakistan and New Zealand scheduled for the opening day. The New Zealand team will begin their practice sessions today. The team's focus will be on preparing for the tough competition ahead. Obviously, that's Champions Trophy. The South African squad is set to arrive in Lahore on February 7th, the day before the series kicks off. But while we are talking about Champions Trophy, imagine that the second leg of the ICC Champions Trophy tour is underway, where we spoke about it, before it was in Sheikhupura and, the areas around it as well. Now the trophy is traveling to 10 different cities in Pakistan. Every city is getting great welcome from cricket lovers. The enthusiasm of the fans is notable and are enthusiastically taking selfies with the trophy. During the opening match of the Three Nations series, the trophy will also be displayed at Gaddafi Stadium, Lahore, which, by the way, I'm invited to the, newly refurbished Gaddafi Stadium on the 7th of February.
What's very interesting about this trophy? Is it made of the real gold, or is it just a tradition where it's, roamed around the city?
Yeah, so it's more of a tradition. You know how, the FIFA World Cup trophy came to Pakistan as well.
And I think the same is the case with that, the World Olympics, what do you call it, that
exactly,
mashal, I'm forgetting the English
exactly,
for that.
that's what the concept is, so because Pakistan happens to be the defending champion of the trophy, so we already have, we are home to that trophy. And we certainly would want that trophy to stay within Pakistan, because the Champions Trophy is being hosted by Pakistan anyways. So I think it's great for each and every cricket lover. I'm getting so many calls, Hajra, these days. Or, Pakistan, India, Dubai cricket match, please get us the tickets. I think our first guest who's over here inside the studio will certainly have contacts to get those tickets too as well.
Right. And we can talk about it, of course, and good luck dealing with all of these calls and favors. But now let's delve into the state of the economy of the Pakistan, because economy is a hot topic. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone wants to be involved in it, because people's futures depends upon that. So we have some very good news, and there are some statistics which have improved the conversation regarding the economics of Pakistan, and which is that the non-textile based export of Pakistan has increased by 12%. And the FDI has increased by 21%, and the growth rate is projected to increase. And there was also a World Bank report in which it said that Pakistan's economy has the potential to become a $1 trillion economy if the growth rate is projected to be around 7%. So how to make sure that a growth rate is projected to be 7%? And a matter of the fact is that how to make sure that we stop that relapsing of economy by going to the IMF again and again, and what are some of the structural changes that we can make sure we focus on, so that the economy is on the track, and the artificial boom that often bursts after a certain point of the time and the graph ditches down, how can we make sure that that graph is consistent? So we have an expert in the studio who is going to answer all of these questions. He happens to be Usman Shaukat Saab. He is the president of the RCCI. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me on the show.
So, sir, let's kickstart the conversation now. So we have some very good positive indicators, right? Do you think they will help boost the investors' confidence in this entire scenario?
Yes, definitely. And thank you for raising this topic. It's one of the most important topics right now. As you know, economy is something that everybody is looking at. And after years of, you can say, sort of a recessionary environment, we are finally heading into a recovery phase. And everybody wishes that this recovery phase is a sustainable one, is a long-term one, because a lot of sectors have suffered, especially post-COVID. We have seen supply chains globally being suffered, production outputs suffering. And since then, we've seen a sort of a downturn in the global economies. It's not only Pakistan economy, when we look at the global economies. And now everybody is coming out of that recessionary phase, and Pakistan is a part of that. Some good news that has come out in the first 6 months, in the first half of the fiscal year, like you said. One, our FDI numbers have gone up. So that shows that the efforts of the government, especially the SIFC that we saw established 2 years ago, as they've been trying to attract foreign investment from a lot of delegations, from a lot of countries.
Is it successful venture?
Yes. Now, this 20% increase is finally showing that that number is coming in. You see, investors always take some time. There's sort of a lagging indicator, but they always take time, but they come when the economy, the situation is sort of a suitable one. Secondly, the inflation numbers, they have come down. The inflation is at 9-year low right now. We are at a 2.4% inflation. Last time we saw these numbers were back in 2015. seen. So that's a very, very positive sign for us. Thirdly, we have seen that our non-textile exports, like you said, have gone up by 12%, which again is a very, very positive indication that we are now going towards other sectors. Again, that was the main objective.
And, Usman sir, so I would want you to explore the conversation around the non-textile exports, right? What is driving that change, and what sort of, because there's always already a boost there, right? What can government do to give it a more boost so that the economy would flourish and it would bring more positive news for people?
Sure. First of all, the non-textile exports are right now being driven by a value-added leather, and we are seeing engineering goods. So these two are actually leading. Some surgical goods are there as well. Pharmaceuticals is coming up as well. So basically, the good news is that we were highly dependent on textiles, and 25 to 30 billion dollars was our sort of export quantum, and was primarily led by textiles. And we saw that in the last few years, due to the high energy cost, a lot of the textile industry moved abroad, which did hurt us. They're coming back now with the energy cost coming down, the environment getting more suitable. But now we have to make sure that these sectors sustain their growth. We saw that the policies, the industrial policy is what is needed to make sure that these sectors continue to contribute.
Exactly. And in addition to this, while we are actually speaking of these factors, I'm going to take you back a little while as well, where I think it was the Rice Export Association which came up with $4 billion of exports, number one. Then there were IT exports somewhere close to $3.5 or $3.8 billion. Now imagine, I think that we really need to prioritize whether what can actually garner us a lot of $1 billion, right? So how do you think, before we move on towards the policy bit of it, how do you think that the government is actually prioritizing that what can be a cash cow for us, and how can we certainly serve the purpose of moving towards, that, or having that graph at 7% growth, so that, we by 2035 are a $1 trillion economy?
Sure. I think, first of all, I would like to commend what the SIFC has been doing. I think they have done tremendous job. I always say that you have to give confidence to the local investor if you want the foreign investors to come in. So that confidence is coming back. Like you said, many sectors are now being focused, and actually the policy was the issue here. We a lot of times used to see that the sustainable policies would used to, the absence of sustainable policies would used to drive investors away, domestic as well as international investors. Now we are seeing the clarity of policies, like what we used to call a charter of economy of sorts. We always used to say that, there's a charter of democracy, or there's a charter of politics, but there should always be a charter of economy. No matter what happens on the political front, you can, fight it out, do whatever you want.
And we've seen our neighbors do it.
Exactly. Let the economy run, and politics be politics, and let economy be economics.
I think this conversation is incomplete if we do not address some existing gaps in our economy. So, Usman sir, we have seen that there's an artificial boom in the economy, and after some time we see that there is a dip, a nosedive, right? How can we make sure that there is a sustainability within the economy and it flourishes, right? So the graph is a more consistent graph, not a very erratic sort of a graph.
And is it an artificial boom?
No, right now I believe it's not. It's sort of an organic boom, I would say, because we're seeing this boom come up globally. It's happening everywhere. Every country is coming out of a recession, and of course we are part of the global environment as well. This time I believe it is going to be sustainable because of the enabling environment. Like we said, inflation has come down, FDI has gone up, your exports are going up, and the most important factor is your KIBOR. Your KIBOR has come down to 12%. We saw a 100 basis point decline recently, and now is expected to come down in single digits. Now that is going to drive a lot of the investments. Your point to sustainability has come from there. If you are getting 25% returns, or you have to loan the money at 25%, that is not workable or feasible for any business. But now in single digits, we are seeing a lot of finance being mobilized towards new industries. We are seeing the IT sector, like you mentioned, a lot of work is being done, industrialization is being done. So we need to make sure that this KIBOR environment stays like that, provided the inflation numbers don't heat up. If the inflation doesn't heat up, we can see the KIBOR staying at the same.
In addition to this, while we are at it, obviously, the finance minister actually calls upon private sector to take active role in Pakistan's economic front as well. How do you think that they can actively participate? Because of the fact that, do you think that all of those policies will drive us towards that, or do you think that there needs to be change in the policy as well when we talk about our economy?
First of all, I think the private sector has to be involved in a lot more.
You are the private sector,
Yes,
right?
then they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe, the government should not be in the business of doing anything. The governments are not supposed to do that. And slowly and gradually, privatization is talking about that. Public-private partnership is what we're talking about. Globally, when you see a lot of the projects, when you look at the US governments or the European governments, they are engaging the private sector and are not putting the burden on the government. I mean, look at the US. The US is one of the richest countries, yet they don't get into the private sector work because they know the private sector can do this much better than us. Plus, it's a financial burden for the governments to run businesses. We are not in the business of running airlines. We're not in the business of running steel mills. We should get rid of these SOEs that are bleeding our economy and get the private sector involved. Privatize a lot of it.
That's where I think that the grey area is, because imagine that, earlier there was a bidding for Pakistan International Airlines as well. And, the bid that we got wasn't really
As a
even
joke.
close to, yeah, it was a joke. So that's where he wants the private sector to jump up. Now imagine people like you are, you're heading, looking after RCCI, there's Islama Chamber of Commerce. All of you people need to kind of come together to make sure that, okay, hey, you know what, this is not your job. Let us do that. But, certainly there needs to be a bid which actually kind of tempts the government to kind of say, okay, we're going to sell it off.
Right, and I think there's a lot of resistance considering the fact that we is also a public, organization. But Usman sir, we also need to redirect a conversation on a very important point of the structural changes that are very essential to our economy, right? And one of that is the cost of the energy, because if you want to have a good industrial base, that means that you need to give low electricity so that there's more production and our products can compete in the market, right? With the boom in the solar energy, because in every household I see that there are solar panels, do you think that this boom can address the rising cost of the electricity?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've already seen that. I mean, the couple of things that we've seen happening, the government has started engaging the IPPs, the capacity charges and the circular debt, the monster that we all were dealing with. Finally, it seems like the government is serious about it. They've started negotiating with the private sector. So we are hoping that the cost of per unit of electricity is going to come down in the next few months. Of course, alternative energy has contributed a lot. Wind, like solar, is also contributing a lot to the industry. A lot of the textile industry has moved to wind. Wind, keep in mind, is a much more economical source than even solar. Solar you only get during the day. Wind you can even get during the night. So, wind corridors, Pakistan has great wind corridors in the south of the country. If you go to Sindh, the Nuriabad side, and that side has great wind corridors, and we are utilizing that. So that is going to definitely drive down energy cost and the cost of debt. Were two reasons why we were hurting. So the cost of debt has already started coming down. Kaibor's down. We are having the financing cost in sort of a more controlled manner. But this energy cost needs to be curtailed, and I think we are moving in that direction.
And that's exactly the reason, because obviously there was uninterrupted energy resource. That's number one that we need. And unfortunately, with all of these increasing prices, the industry actually had to move on towards probably Bangladesh or probably Sri Lanka as well, and we've seen how industrialists have actually moved to those places, and it has hurt us. Now, while we have spoken about, and Hajra, I think, has pointed the conversation in the right direction, talking about structural changes.
Right.
What are those changes which are at the top of your head right now that, if we do these things in days to come, we can certainly make sure that, that things are going to get better, number one. Number two, how much in the last 1 year, because today, alhamdulillah, I believe that this government has actually completed one successful year. And how do you think that political stability has actually played a pivotal role in increasing the foreign direct investments, and increasing the exports, and bringing the Kaibor rate down? Please go ahead.
Sure. I think that's a very important point. The political stability that we've seen over the last 1 year has really propelled the growth. I mean, business is secondary. There's always political stability that needs to be established. So we have seen that. This was the first year of the IMF, as you know. The first year of IMF always brings stability, so we saw that as well. But going forward, the most important point that you said is that what are the steps that need to be taken to ensure that this remains sustainable? Like I said, the industrial policy. The industrial policy needs to have clarity. We need to have a clear industrial policy for your different sectors. They need to know what's the roadmap down the road for 10 years. And believe me, even if you have a bad policy, investors live with that. Businessmen work around that. But uncertainty is what kills you. When you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, that's where investors sort of crowd out.
Thank you so much for wrapping up this with saying that we need to have a strong industrial policy. We will save that debate for another day. But once again, thank you, Usman sir, for being here, for redirecting the conversation on the very important lines. So in order to further elaborate or go into the segment that we are talking about, because we have been talked about the market economy and how market economy is driven. So there was a very interesting research that was carried out, and it focused on that how, in the past we used to hear about, how there were pandemics going on and epidemics going on. So we've seen the epidemics of the infectious diseases, but nowadays there was a very interesting research that was undertaken, and they talk about that how there is even a market epidemic of obesity, of heart diseases, how it is affecting that. And there was a very interesting research that pointing out that there are actually 5 drivers that are contributing towards this very much what we call the market epidemic. And it starts with how there is market production, there's a research that goes into it, then a product is developed, and usually in terms of the fast food, and then
basically bad food choices.
Exactly. And then how it is marketed. There's an aggressive marketing going on. We know that despite of the fact that the bad effects or bad food environment that it carries, but we are still able to go and eat that product. And secondly, then the marketing industry, they denied the harmful effects, and then they are throwing a lot of money and making sure that they buy a lot of scientists. And in the last effect, that what they do is that they mitigate the bad effects, even if there is some research refuting that. So in order to make sure that we redirect conversation towards a good food environment, how to prevent from this market epidemic of obesity, of the bad food choices that we are going to make. I'm very glad that we have been joined by a nutritionist all the way from the Karachi. She happens to be Arooba, Kashif. Assalamu alaikum, Arooba, and thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam, Hajra. Thank you so much for having me here.
Right.
Hi. There's somebody else sitting right next to Hajra as well. And thank you so much, Arooba, for your time, first of all. Arooba, we would certainly want you or request you in the first place to please, if you can speak about this research which Hajra was pointing towards, so that, our audiences have a clearer picture in 46 different countries. Please go ahead. Let us know about this research, first of all.
So definitely there are so many researches that are developing over the time. Like I belong from America. I came to visit Pakistan. Like it's been after 4 years I'm here. And honestly, I would love to talk and dig deep down into the topic, comparing both the countries and comparing both East and the West. And unfortunately, it is like one of the most important topic, and we are not talking about it that much. The research shows that heart risk, like we do not want to talk about the heart rate or the cardiac risk, or we can not talk about the obesity in general, but I would love to talk about that, how much fast food and the fast food choices that we are making, or bad food choices that we are making, is affecting our generations and ourselves at a larger scale. We talk about cancer is one of the most increasing disease. Like how much our grandparents or how much our great grandparents had an exposure, that what was the cancer, right? We talk about the child obesity, we talk about the child diabetes, we talk about the hormonal problems into females, infertility, secondary infertilities, we talk
You
about
got that point,
PCOS.
Arooba. We certainly did get this point as well, and thank you so much for highlighting that, which certainly calls for a lot of awareness amongst general population when they go to supermarkets, and there are different foods or different offers as well. So what sort of awareness campaigns do you think needs to be undertaken? Because we do see soda ads every single day. Probably in Ramadan, that's exactly what we're going to see. 1.5 liter bottle, mere khayal hai,
and it's
50 rupees mein.
it's wrapped a very Islami sort of the messages that we get, in order to make it more appealing to the public out there. But Arooba, we also need to explore that the healthy choices Generation Z or millennials are ignoring deliberately, at what cost, and what if the important nourishments or nutritional requirements are not going to the society? How is it impacting that?
So you have said it yourself that we present the fast food or the bad food in a very beautiful way, right? It's very attractive. You go outside, you see the billboards, you see the banners, you use social media, you
And we
scroll,
see
you
our
see
best athletes
amazing.
on them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see like amazing ad campaigns, like influencers, you see a lot of things. Are you listening to me? I'm sorry if there's a problem.
Right. We can hear you. You're perfectly audible. Please go ahead. Keep on
Yeah.
talking.
So, like, there are so many ad campaigns that we see all the time, all over the year, whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Eid, whether it's like, I belong from the West, I know whether it's Christmas time, whether it's Easter time, Diwali. You talk about it, people are only emphasizing about the marketers are only emphasizing on the bad food choices, whether it's soda, whether it's fast food, whether it's pizza, anything you name it, they have it, or whether they are the candies for the kids, right? We do not see the ad campaigns for the healthy eating or for the fresh or organic produce. We do not see that. And one of the most important factor to highlight is that right now we are so blessed, we have social media. If we talk about that, marketing on a media is very expensive, we can definitely consider other alternatives like social media. I see a lot of influencer in both Pakistan and West. Especially when I talk about the West, right now we have a lot of good awareness going on for the healthy,
Yeah, yeah,
lifestyle choices.
it is. It is. Aruba, the awareness is going on, certainly, but we cannot deny the fact that whenever, in order to explore or encourage more healthy habits of the food, we also need to dissect why there is a fast food craving in the first place, right? Despite the fact that we know that how harmful burger, pizzas, or I mean the fast food generally is for our health. What is driving these fast food cravings so that we can
There are
encourage more healthy food habits? Sure, sure.
Of course, there are so many things. One of the things that we talk about is a beautiful advertisement. Is okay. And second thing is the packaging. Fast food, I mean, like it appears so good. I love having the pizza or zinger. Third and foremost thing is our cravings, is our addiction. We have been born and brought up like that, right? It's very convenient. You go to the mall. Like I've been to the mall a couple of times when I came here. Whenever I go for the shopping, I enter into the food court, and all I see is the fast food, right? I do not see any chain of the healthy food. Like we have
Exactly.
only one, two, yeah, we have only one or two shops. Like I cannot just go and grab a smoothie when I'm so tired or hungry. I need a good bowl, I need a protein bowl, I need a good salad, I need so many. I mean, like there are so many things. If you if you deep dive into the topic of the, I'm a nutritionist, I'm a recipe developer. I have recently launched my book as well, and it's like in a process
Which
of
is why,
making
Aruba,
it.
I have another question for you. And that question is, now imagine that when me and Hajra, we were growing up, we have had samosas, probably homemade, kebabs being
True,
homemade. You know, there was a
true.
tea time. We would sit down with our parents probably in the evening, have tea and whatnot. Now imagine, don't you think, I think we have identified the problem, but we really need to identify the culprit over here as well. You know, so earlier mothers will actually, or would take out a lot of time in making sure that that their children were fed healthy food. Now with Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming up, it's
Yeah.
becoming a little more difficult. I do see my children going to the school, unfortunately, without breakfast, where
Oh my God.
I never went to school without breakfast as well. Don't you think that it's more about parents finding their own convenience but not prioritizing the health of their child?
Definitely, definitely. As a mom of three kids, I can talk about this so much. When I see women, they are choosing convenience over working hard or, devoting some time to their kids. I feel so bad. I live in the West. My life is so difficult. I know that. But this is something that we have to do it in our families. Make your kids sit with you, talk about them, like talk to them about so many things. My kids go to school, and in the West, what you do, I don't know about in Pakistan, but what you do that every month you give certain money to their schools, right? And that money is used for their lunch boxes, right? They can go to
Yeah.
the school and they can have the breakfast, they can have the lunch, they can have the snack, whatever they want to have. The problem is that even a lot of the times when I am trying hard, my kids are listening to me, there is a peer pressure involved, right?
Okay.
Other kids are doing that, other kids are coming to the school, their parents have given so much money to the lunch cafeterias, and they are
True.
just going every day grabbing burgers, grabbing pizza. Thank God I have a problem of haram and halal, honestly. Thank God. So my kids cannot literally, my kids cannot have a lot of things that the other kids are having. And
That's
then
that.
what I did, then what
Yeah,
I,
that Aruba, that's
yeah,
good. That's good, and thank you so much for raising that point as well. And I think that it kind of saves us from a lot of things as well.
a lot of
But
things,
you
right?
know, I think
And
it was probably 10 days ago that I went to get my liver tested, And,
Oh.
so there was this ultrasound machine, I don't know, so the lady doctor was actually checking my liver and she said, you've got fatty liver. And I was like, how many people actually get fatty liver? And she was like, in Pakistan, 70 to 80% of the population has got fatty liver, which is all because of fast foods. Because of halal and haram, obviously, I think one of the core reason of us having fatty liver is fast foods, basically. So imagine that this is exactly what we are doing to our population, number one. Number two, now imagine that whenever we go grocery shopping, there's a lot of information about the product at the back of it, and we I've never ever seen anybody reading that information. And even on toothpaste, you do see a red mark, a black mark, and a blue mark. It actually indicates what you actually need for your teeth. So I don't know how we're going to teach people.
We are not reading the labels. Thank you for raising up this point. But at the very same time, labels are not very accurate as well. Like while I was studying about it, we were shown that how labels are so misleading. Anything that has written organic or gluten free in it doesn't mean that it has to be healthy. Period. We need to educate our audience into a lot of things, right? We need to, again, I would say, please work on the campaigns, please work on the education. Our school systems has so many subjects, so many that is not required. Like we do, I don't want to name those subjects. I have been grown and brought up in Pakistan, and the subjects I used to study in the school, I was like, would they actually help me in the real life? No, they wouldn't help me. We need
Integration,
to have,
statistics.
yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely,
we,
Arooba.
we need to we need
I
to
think
have those subjects of
true.
health and wellness, of fitness. Like, please make those subjects available and make a proper, research driven topics. Talk about
That's
it.
indeed a very good suggestion that we need to improve our syllabus and incorporate the subjects that matter to us most now, because we are living in a very fastly changing world. I mean, with the technology, with all of this, a very fast incursion of the things that is happening. So now, Arooba, since you are a nutritionist, a lot of people go through the sugar cravings, and they're very heavy sugar cravings. And especially if you are waking up at the night, what is that sugar craving indicating? Is there any message that your body is going to is giving you? Is there any deficiency in your body that is why you are having this sugar craving? And how to deal with that sugar craving in a more healthier and a responsible food choices that we make?
Yeah, so sugar cravings are always an underlying problem in your body,
Right.
but we do not talk about it. Again, we have, like, I'm craving sugars because I love sugar. I'm born with the sweet tooth. Like, people just neglected with that. No, you are at a high risk of diabetes if your body is craving sugar again and again and again. At night, what happens a lot of the times, it might not be diabetes, it might be your habits, or it might be your discipline. Go to the bed early and you would see the changes. Sometimes it's not the sugar craving again, sometimes you are thirsty, right? You are thirsty, your body needs some water, but instead of giving that water, you just go to the pantry and grab a chocolate bar. It's normal for us as well. And at the very same time, it's a dopamine effect. I mean, like, I feel good when I have a sweet, I have sugar craving.
Everybody feels good.
I Yeah, I love to, like, instead of, who cuts the cucumbers at the night or who grabs an apple, right? I would love to have a cookie. I would love to have a donut lying there. So
And I
there
only
are
had three choices last night, Aruba. I only had three choices last night. There was a Click biscuit, there was an Oreo biscuit, and there was another
yeah.
biscuit. And I had like those mini
So you can
Oreos.
go and make up something healthier, right?
I
Which you
was
would
like,
not prefer
yeah.
that.
No, because I actually went for exercise after too long because there was a wedding going on in my house. So I was like, okay, I ran enough today. I truly
So,
deserve
so
like 4 or 5 smaller cookies.
and then you had the like a sweetie treat, right? And that's wonderful. I think if your body is asking for that in a moderate amount, you can always treat your body for that. But Aruba, one last question before we wrap up this segment, and that is that there was a report in National Geographic, and it pointed out the research going on, and which shows that the even the nutritional products or the products or eatables that we are eating, they are not very nutritious. Our fathers, our ancestors used to have a more healthier meals, that too coming from the soil, because there's so many factors going on. So do you mind exploring that research a little bit, and what are the solutions that you want to offer?
Definitely, it's because of the soil depletion. We are adding too many crops into the soil. like we have this much space and we are just putting the crops over the crops over the crops. The recent you see the global warming, we all are being impacted by that, right? The floods and everything is damaging the crops, and more of the farmers are planting the crops not because of their nutrition, just because it's quantity versus quality. Like
Yes.
they just want to produce more and more and more, they want to sell more and more and more, and that's why the quality is compromised. You are eating garbage even if you are eating natural things, right? And one of those like examples, one of the suggestions would be that, like, I am I this is my goal of 2025, to go scratch. Like, I would love to do everything myself. I've started creating a lot of recipes myself, granulas, bars, and everything. We can plant our own crops if you have a good backyard or if you have a good garden. Like, plant here and there, like small things that you use every day. Like, you use tomatoes every day, you use hari mirche, hara dhania. Do it yourself, right? Instead of buying, and have more and more of the farmers markets. Like in Pakistan, I don't see the concept of farmers market, right? When we go abroad, when we go west, we see of, okay, every area has a farmers market every one day a week. I mean, there is no harm in having a farmers market. Um,
Or probably
uh,
having a kitchen garden as well. But thank you so much, Arooba, for hitting the nail on the head. You have actually wonderfully wrapped up this segment. Thank you so much for your points. I think everybody needs to understand them. There needs to be more awareness about the choices that we make. And for parents who are out there, for your 4-year-old or 5-year-old to have French fries every single day, you think about it. Is it a nice decision to make? Please make sure that you think wise for the future of your child. Because me, being the father of 3 daughters, alhamdulillah, I mean, that's not the only thing that I'm thinking. What I think when it comes down to their health is that they're going to have their own children, inshallah, one day. They really need to be healthy. And for them to be healthy, we need to make healthy choices. In fact, I promise you today that tomorrow I'm going to bring a video from my kitchen garden so that we can inspire a lot of other people. I might not know the names of all vegetables in English, but I'll still give it a try.
Okay. That's a very interesting sort of the suggestion that you make. But now moving on to another very interesting news, and that is about the countdown set to begin for the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics. Italian ski resorts in the Dolomites are getting ready to co-host the event with February 6, marking 1 year to go until the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics, marking the return of the Games to a traditional European venue for the first time in 2 decades. The event will span a wide geographical areas, blending urban and alpine settings. Milan will host the opening ceremony at the iconic San Siro Stadium, along with the events such as figure skating, ice hockey and speed skating at the venues. The closing ceremony will take place at the historic Verona Arena, a Roman amphitheater dating back to 1st century.
Wow, so I think it's not just only you being a spectator of the sport as well, but rather being, in a place where it's culturally and heritagely rich as well. But imagine, this is one thing which actually I think we all need. This is something really interesting, because in Denmark, there's a unique library where one can borrow an individual instead of a book to listen to their life story for 30 minutes. My God. The Human Library movement, which started in Denmark back in 2000, has now spread to over 70 countries. It promotes empathy through conversations with human books representing diverse experiences. The initiative has partnered with institutions like the University of Glasgow, where medical students engage with human books to develop essential communication and empathy skills and help them become more compassionate professionals. Wow, I think that's great. Imagine listening to somebody's stories. And, that's not even a common practice over in our country. We certainly not interested in listening to anyone's story.
I wouldn't do that. I would instead again borrow a book, because I am a book reader and I'm not interested in listening to conversation for 30 minutes. But again, that also points out to the pandemic of loneliness that these Western countries are experiencing. That's why they are asking other people to go and listen to them, because they have no one. The traditional family system have collapsed there because of the hyper individualism. But we will save that debate for some other day. Now we want to move on to another interesting segment, and that is also related to the nutrition, and that is about the evolution of the cooking techniques. And in order to extrapolate on this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by a chef in the studio. He happens to be Jahanzaib Irfan. Assalamu alaikum, Jahanzaib, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum assalam, and thank you very much for having me.
Wonderful to have you over here. We were talking about smart choices and, you know, healthier choices in eating, and you brought us, you know, 3 bags of cookies earlier this morning. Thank you so much for that. You know, let's talk about how the techniques have evolved when we speak about cooking.
When we speak about cooking, like if we take it like 10 years back, let's start from 2014.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's been like changes in equipments.
Okay.
Everything is being so efficient, so easy that we have just forgotten the love of cooking, how we used to make it. It was almost spiritual. Like you used, when you were little, you used to wake up to warm spices being grinded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the entire house would smell of saag and sarson ka tel and makhan.
Exactly, but I think with all of these things, the evolution of the cooking techniques and the efficiency that you mentioned, because technology is advancing, do you think we are still able to retain the taste that we used to have back in the old days? Because the food that is obtained from the earthen pottery, like mitti ke bartan, it tastes very, very different. It's very, very tasty. I cannot get the same taste that too coming from the cooker or through the utensils, right?
Yeah, that's the thing I spoke about. Like it's made so much efficient that it's we don't use our hands that much. Like we get the masala packets, we don't grind our own masalas. When we used to
Yeah, go ahead. It's okay. When we used to do the traditional cooking?
Yeah, when we used to do the traditional cooking, like our mothers would like wake up like 6 in the morning, and they would start preparations even for breakfast, for lunch, and then dinner. She would just be cooking all the time.
If they're cooking or not, they're still up at 6 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, they're still up at
Fajr
6
time, our
a.m.
mothers are
Like,
up.
it's a little bit
Exactly,
annoying.
and I think that's one of the issues my father has faced all his life as well, because he would sleep late and my mother would wake up early. But while we're at it, do you think that it is, you know, for whatever techniques have advanced and it has made it more efficient, the food gets ready like quicker, 2 or 3 minutes? Do you think we're going towards healthier cooking, or do you think that we really need to go back to our roots?
Technology, there's positive aspects to it too, but also when there's positive, there's also negative. You have to look at. Now let's take the positive. We are much more curious about what we eat, right? So we have like plans like keto plans for our diets and everything and all, like to manage our health. That's right, yeah. In 2014, like 10 years back or like 15 years back or like 20 years back, everything was just so pure. Everything was just in its true form. Like we used our hands to milk a cow, we used the cream, separated the butter. It would take it 12 hours, so you can
Boil the
have
milk,
beautiful piece of butter that you can enjoy. The secret of life is actually butter.
And that's why I think our ancestors have a good health, more better living standard than us living in a modern day with the more efficiency. But Jahanzaib, we will talk about the food, but first please tell us, you know, why did you venture into this field? How did you choose, why did you choose to become a chef in the first place? Are you a foodie?
I am a foodie. I am a foodie.
No, it's not because of the physical appearance.
No.
It's the smile that comes to your face when you speak about food.
Almost poetic how you cook.
Wow.
Like when you're a chef, you literally deal with life and death.
True.
Like there's life in a plant. A farmer starved his kids to grow a crop. That crop got into the market. Then it came to your house. Then it got cooked. We have to respect that. At all costs.
And it's an art form as well. I mean, people need to understand that. And Jahanzaib, not just that, I think that today I've actually found that guy जिसके बारे में वो रिश्ते वाली आंटी कहती है कि लड़की बहुत खुश रहेगी. It's guys like you, yeah.
Hey, why did you choose to become the chef? Please tell us.
When I was like small, when I was 10, so let's start from there. I always used to see my mother in the kitchen, and she was just so happy to prepare a meal. I was always just standing like, why are you so happy? You just actually made food, I'm gonna eat it, and everything gets out. So she said that it's actually not just cooking, it's the feeling I give to the cooking. Wow. You eat a pizza outside, you feel it satisfying. But when you have something that your mother makes you, it's even as simple as lentils. It's beautiful. Why? Because she cooked it with love.
Ammi ke haath ka khana,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The phrase.
And there's always some different essence to it. There's an aroma to
That's
it.
right,
My
that's
mother
right.
does not cook anymore, but whenever I feel like having a balon wala paratha, I would always go to my mom and be like, can you make one? And see, it's the same flour that you're going to use, the same atta, the same oil, everything's the same, but it tastes different. I don't know why. There's a magic to it.
It's all about feeling, man.
Yeah.
When they say that we pour love inside it, it's literally love. Literally. Like if I'm going to prepare something and I'm upset, I'm angry, I'm not into cooking, the thing I make, it'll not like be satisfying to you. You'll just eat it and be like, yeah, I just ate something.
But how did it help you becoming a better person? Do you feel cooking helps you in that way?
Yeah, it does.
Okay,
It does pretty much.
explain it.
Whenever I'm nervous, whenever I'm like low in stress,
Encourage
Yeah, I
someone like
just
me
go
who does
and-
not like cooking at all.
like when you start cooking, just
Okay.
deal with everything that has life in it. Like when you hold an onion, you have to respect that it has life inside it.
Right.
It's not just an onion.
You're so thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm
I
almost
just talk with
spiritual
you.
about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting.
And then you cook them by yourself.
Yeah, like you have to respect that onion. I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to make something beautiful out of it.
And it's going to give more life to other people.
Yeah,
Wow.
it is. Now, when we talk about like the modern solutions about cooking, we get everything pre-cut. We get everything. We get our vegetables. We don't even look at them. We hand them to someone who's just gonna make it in a hurry, who's just doing his job.
But see, it's your profession, right? For us to be over here, we cannot be cutting and making the spices and whatnot. So I think everybody's got their own quick fix, right?
It is, but when we see the negative sides of processed foods, I think anything that has a label on it is not food.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
So there are like too many processed ingredients inside. So in past 20 years, I think processed ingredients were not like a major concern.
But now they are, and we will save that debate for some other day. But thank you so much, Jahanzaib, for coming to our show, for highlighting and being so thoughtful about even the small ingredients, because I'm usually just chopping it and putting it into the curry or whatever that is happening. But inshallah, with that, we are ending our segment. Until next time, so goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good
Good morning. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much.